Today then on the channel, I'm very happy to say that I will be able to give my early access impression to Marvel's Midnight Suns. I've had access to the full game for around about a week now, and I can give it a preview based on that. Now, due to embargoes that are in place, we can only really discuss content up to the end of Act 1. There's 3 acts in total in the game. I'm going to make sure there's no story spoilers in this at all. I don't want to spoil anything for you because the story is absolutely awesome. So if you're somebody that's very spoiler adverse, don't worry, there's nothing like that in this video. I have played the game for probably around about 40 or so hours in the time I've had access to it. It is of course an early access review copy I've got, so there's no day one patch. Now before I go in and a breakdown in different sections we'll be covering in the video, I will just say straight away that if you know me, then you'll know that I'm a huge Marvel fan and I'm a huge strategy game fan, so straight away this game is definitely made for me without a doubt. But what we'll be covering in this video, firstly I'm going to talk about the gameplay. That will include the combat, that includes the cards and also the exploration within the Abbey. We'll then move on to graphics and performance. Once again, we are waiting on a day one patch here. We'll discuss possible replayability for the game. I can't talk about endgame or anything like that, but I can give you a rough idea of how many hours you could be looking to get out of the game. I'll very quickly talk about bugs because thankfully there's not a lot of them at all. We'll then move on to customization for the hunter. We'll have a quick chat about the story. Once again, I'll make sure there's not any spoilers in that. I'll have my overall thoughts and then we'll finish up with a Q&A because I put a post out on Twitter asking people if they had any questions. So if there's any of the questions that come up that I can answer, I will look to do this. But let's dive in. Let's break this down by talking about the gameplay first. So the gameplay then is split into 2 very distinct elements. First you have your third person exploration of the Abbey. This is where you can talk to other heroes, you increase your relationship with them and you'll get bonuses on the back of that. You've then got the turn-based card combat as well. Now one thing I will mention for anyone that's played XCOM games is something known as a doomsday timer, in that you have to do certain missions within a certain point of time or else the game will actually fail. There's nothing like that in this game, so in between your story missions, if you want to spend an entire month cycle in the game just grinding out side missions, you can do that. If you want to spend hours exploring the Abbey, you can do that as well. You're not going to fail the main story or anything along the lines of that, so it's great. You really can take your time and I would recommend that you do that. Now regarding the Abbey, this is an element that I didn't think I would be that interested in, but I've probably spent about 50% of my time within the Abbey. And I love the combat in the game and I'm dying to get back into it, but there's just so much to do in the Abbey. So I've spent a whole lot of time exploring. You talk to your different heroes, you can increase the passives, and in turn that will help you when you go into combat. There's various very intriguing optional side quests that are going on within the Abbey as well. Exploration wise, there's a Metroidvania style progression system in that you'll go to a certain area and there may be a bridge or a wall that's blocked, and then as the story progresses you unlock new skills. You can come back to that and you can open it up, and as a result it will open up more of the optional side story that's available to you as well. So having a whole lot of fun doing that, and once again probably about half of my playtime has been just exploring the Abbey and talking to other heroes. This is an element that really did surprise me. Combat wise then, this is a turn-based game where you use cards. I've seen a lot of people in the comments of previous Midnight Suns videos that aren't happy with this, but for me personally I absolutely love this style of play. Now the amount of strategy you get from this is absolutely incredible due to all the different variables in the matches. So the variables you've got the heroes you can take in. There's 13 heroes and then you've got your own customizable hero as well. The 13th hero we can't talk about just yet. You've got the cards that you choose to take in, so you'll make your own modified deck for your character. Your cards can have different mods on them as well. We'll talk about that a bit more when we get to the replayability section. You've then got the aspect that when you're in a match, not only have you got your cards, but you've got the redraw mechanic, you've got the movement mechanic, and you've got environmental attacks. When you add all this in together, it just adds so much variability in regards to how the match actually plays out, and no two fights actually feel the same. So every one you go in, it feels fresh and it feels like a brand new fight with new challenges coming at you. So absolutely awesome. Occasionally as well, I've had this happen a few times, and it was one specifically with Captain Marvel, and you have everything line up right with your cards. It just feels absolutely awesome, and I had a genuine punch the air moment with Captain Marvel at one point where I basically wiped out the entire screen with her on turn 1. It really was pretty fun. I'll probably do a video on it at a later date. So overall, as you can probably tell, combat wise, I absolutely love this aspect. The matches, I would say they can probably take anywhere from around about 10 to 15 minutes, and every so often when you get your story based boss fights, these are really pretty great as well, but I'm not going to go into them in too much detail so we aren't spoiling anything. So that's the general gameplay, so that's the Abbey and also the combat. Let's now talk about the graphics and performance. So we'll start off with the graphics first. These are without a doubt the biggest downside of the game. The graphics aren't everything. The environment in the game, it looks good. The character models look really basic. Ones that look especially bad are the likes of Iron Man and also Captain America. They just look like an early PS4 game. It's really pretty odd, but ultimately this is a strategy game, so it shouldn't really be about the graphics. However, saying that, I do feel that if the game had better graphics, it would make it even more immersive, because when you're in the Abbey, you're exploring, you're talking to other heroes. From a story perspective, it's really good, but the fact that the graphics are pretty poor pulls a little bit of that immersion away. So it's not a deal breaker in any way, but it would be nice from an immersive point of view to see the graphics looking a bit better than they actually do. Now, the version that we have, it's a PC option we actually have. Now, personally for myself, there's some weird upscaling that's happening that's going on. I think it's down to my Super FX settings, so the footage may look a little bit weird that I show off here. One thing I did notice, and it may be tied in with this, is there's no option to go full screen on PC. That may actually be an issue at my end. I need to investigate that further. I'm going to mention this due to the Gotham Knights fiasco. The FPS on PC can go up to 120, so we're not locked at 30 frames or anything like that. I don't know what it'll be locked at on console. However, the style of game it is, it would be more than acceptable for it to be at 30 frames per second. I don't know if it will be, but personally it wouldn't bother me if it actually was. Another thing in relation to Gotham Knights is you can disable motion blur. This is something you couldn't disable in that, and I know a lot of people were quite annoyed. One bizarre thing I will actually mention is I couldn't see any option to turn off subtitles. I was wanting to do this when I was recording footage of different cinematics, but I can't see anything to turn it off. I'm not sure if that will be added with a day one patch. And I'll also just mention from an accessibility perspective, there's a few options thrown in there, and one of them is a colourblind mode. So it's nice to see that they've actually added that in. So that is graphics and performance. Let's talk about the replayability now. Replayability wise then, the game does offer a new game plus, but I can't talk about it for two reasons. One, I've not actually got there yet, and two, we're not allowed to discuss that in this particular preview version. But I will say that already I've spent about 30 hours in the game and I'm still in Act 1, and I believe there's 3 acts that are actually available in it. Leveling your heroes and maxing them out to get their Midnight Suns card and costume will take multiple playthroughs, so I would say easily probably to just finish the game you're maybe looking at around about 70 hours. If you want to max out all your heroes, you could be looking at several hundred hours to actually do that. Now there's 8 difficulties that will be available in the game as well, so you can tailor the experience to one you're wanting. Are you wanting it to be rock solid, or are you wanting more a story based playthrough? And also for replayability, there's a mod system where you can actually add random mods to cards, and then you can reroll these using currency you have to get from the combat mission. So you go out, you farm that currency, you'll come back and you'll reroll your cards, and you'll hopefully get a god roll for that. So there's going to be a lot of time that you will potentially be able to spend trying to get the best deck for your different characters. So from the point of view of value for money, you're going to get a lot of time out of this game. I can see me probably playing it for months, to be honest. We move on to bugs next here. Thankfully this will be a very quick section. I've seen the very odd bit of texture pop in now. I'm saying very odd, and I've maybe noticed this probably about 5 or 6 times in around about 30 or 40 hours of playing. In that playtime as well, I've had round about 4 or 5 crashes. Now these happen when I save the game, that's when I manually save the game. Can be quite irritating because it means it doesn't actually save at that point. It's a crash to desktop and I lose my progress since the last autosave. Whenever this happens, I've been submitting a bug report, so fingers crossed this will actually be fixed for the game going live, because once again it's an early access build. We've got another couple of weeks until the game is actually out. So that's the only bug. So overall, it's a bit of a pain, the bug I'm getting, but overall it's definitely looking really pretty stable. Now let's talk about the customization that's available for your main character, the Hunter. When it comes to customization for the main character, the Hunter, there is a lot that's going on here. You start off the game, you've got your normal character creator, you choose male or female. From there you can choose your skin tone, you can choose your hair and so on as well. Now once you actually get into the game and you start customising the Hunter, there's a light and dark system that's available in the game, and this is based on your conversation choices. So if you want the light part to go up, you say nice things to other characters and you actually see on screen it will tell you if it is a nice response or not, so it's not just down to you guessing what you think it may be. And if you want the dark meter to fill up, then you would say not so nice things to the other heroes that you're speaking to. Now this system is relevant because different passives you can unlock and cards you can unlock will be based on this actual meter. So you can choose to be neutral, you can choose to be light, or you can choose to be dark. Looks like there'll be around about 30 or so cards available for the Hunter due to the fact they've got these 3 different types of cards that will be available. They have a custom passive, or they have custom passives that will be available. I've already collected 2 of these, and you also have collars you can put on your character. They look a bit odd, to be honest, when you're running around with a collar on you like some kind of dog, but the collars are great. They can add different special effects for missions, and you can choose which one you're actually wearing before you get into a mission. Certain collars will be better for certain missions. I've only seen a few of these so far, but they can be pretty powerful. Once you've created your character as well and you're in the game, you can at a later date customise their appearance again. So you can change your skin colour, you can change the hair, you can't change your sex, so make sure you choose whatever one you're looking for. Personally, from what I've actually seen, I'm not that impressed with the male voiceover. I don't think it sounds that good. If I was able to redo it and not lose all my progress, I would probably go for the female voiceover. I think that actress I've seen from the footage, it seems to be much better there, but just personal preference at the end of the day. Talking about the customization anyway, so you can change like the base outfit of your character, you can change the colour of the outfits, and these different colour swaps are available in chests you can get when you're exploring the Abbey. You can get different masks, you can get glasses, you can get makeup, you can even customise the individual swords. Now you can't change your weapon type, so the Hunter will always use 2 swords, but you can change how the swords actually look, and you can have one sword type on your left hand and a different sword type in the right hand, so that's pretty great. So overall, I would say you can very much have your own individual hero, and that's in regards to both the playstyle of them and how they actually look as well. So customization wise, they've done really well here. For the story here then, don't worry about spoilers at all. I'm just going to talk about this very generally. I'm not going to be specific because I won't spoil anything. The one thing I'll mention in regards to the story that I feel's done well, and you can already see this is happening to an extent from what's been released for the game, is you've got this tension between the Midnight Suns and the Avengers as well, as they try and work together to take down Lilith, so that's done really well. You've got all your different hero interactions when you're around at Abbey. By and large, these are all really good. With some characters, I would say like Captain Marvel's I'm particularly enjoying, but the likes of Iron Man, the interactions with him are very much hit and miss. Some of the jokes I'm laughing out loud, some of the other jokes are just not good at all, but I don't know if that's meant to be the point, that with Iron Man he's always got these quips and they aren't always funny. Story wise as well, again, I'm not going to get into specifics, but there's a side mission that's going on within the Abbey. I'm still working my way through it, and it's genuinely interesting, and I'm really intrigued to see what will happen next with it. So that's all I'm going to cover there, so I'm not actually spoiling anything. Let me just give a quick summary of my general thoughts now. So as you can probably tell from this preview, I am really enjoying it. Now, I said at the start of the video, I'm a huge Marvel fan and I'm a huge strategy game fan, so this game is almost custom made for me. There was no way I wasn't going to enjoy this. Now, I've been surprised by how much time I've actually spent in the Abbey and how much that is to do there. The amount of options that are available from a strategic perspective in combat are absolutely incredible for min-maxer style players, for players that want to really get their teeth into the game. There is a lot to get into here. The one downside I mentioned was the graphics, specifically the character models. I really feel they do pull down the immersion levels of the game, and the immersion levels are really good when you're talking to your different heroes and you're doing your different quests and you're building up relationship with characters, and it's just pulled down when you see what looks like an early game PS4 base model of a character actually looking back at you there. So once again, not a deal breaker, but it would have been nice to see these looking a bit better. Overall, I can't wait to actually finish this video so I can get back and play it again, because I've got a mission I want to do with Captain Marvel so I can upgrade my research for him. Research is something I've not really talked about in this video, but I'll do guides at a later date that will get into that in a lot more detail. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it at this stage. I highly recommend it, and it looks like there is an absolute ton of replayability and depth with it as well. So yeah, absolutely loving it. What we're going to do now to just finish up is we're going to do a Q&A. I've got some questions I received on Twitter and I'll quickly run through them. So the majority of the questions we have here, they're from the Marvel's Midnight Suns wiki account. They actually collected the questions, I believe, from Reddit. So the first one we've got here were there any mechanics, features or cards that you found in your first playthrough that you didn't know about before? Any I wish I knew this when I first started tips. I've actually got a notepad with a ton of notes here for things that I wish I knew when I actually started. I'm not going to spoil them all just now, but I'll look to do a video with something along the lines of 20 things you need to know before you actually play the game, and I'll do that very early when the game launches. The next question here is, what are the restriction and requirements for building a heroes deck? I've seen that they have 8 cards and include 1 attack, heroic, skill card. The missions ever have special deck requirements. I believe you can only have 4 of each specific card type, so you can only have, like, for example, 4 attack cards. You can have 5 of them. In regards to specific deck requirements for missions, you don't have anything like this, and to be honest, I'm thankful we don't have anything like this, because it would really pull down how much you're able to customise your own experience when you go into the level. The next question here, how do played cards get shuffled back into your deck? Can you see the draw, discard, exhaust piles anywhere? So you can't actually see them, so you don't know which ones have actually been exhausted or discarded. Something that they could actually add, which would actually help out if you want to get really in depth for the strategy. But essentially, once you've used all the cards in your pack, older cards will start to come back in again, as long as they're not cards that have actually been exhausted. We then have a question about the Super Link system. So it's what's Super Link like? It's just a way to have fun interactions between heroes. So I didn't actually discuss this in the preview, but it's a tab where you get messages from other heroes, and some of these messages will actually lead to side missions. So it's a bit more than just fun interactions. You will get different side missions if you choose to reply to the message. We then have, what platform is your preview running on? Do you prefer controller or keyboard and mouse? Is there a 60 FPS mode on console? So we're playing this on PC. I tried keyboard and mouse and controller, and to be honest, both of them were good. Personally, I went for controller. I do find that a bit easier. I can kick back in my seat and actually use it. In regards to a 60 FPS mode on console, I'm not actually sure. We then have a question I can't answer, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. So if you can get this far in your preview, what kind of endgame is there? What carries over to New Game Plus? So we're not allowed to discuss that at all, but it looks like in regards to the longevity of the game I've already covered to an extent. There's going to be a lot of time you can put into this, and that's before you even get to New Game Plus. We then have a question about hangouts. This is how you increase your relationship with other characters. So how deep and meaningful are hangouts? Can you compare them to character relationship events in any other game such as Dragon Age? So it looks like there's around about 10 or so different hangouts that are available across all the different heroes, and on certain nights, random heroes, you have the option to go out and hang out with them. When you do this, they will have the option of either disliking what you've done with them, liking it, or loving it. You can actually reload the game to find out which ones they actually like, and I'm working on an infographic of sorts, so you'll actually know when the game comes out what hangouts to choose for different heroes. We have a question about the Hunter's Collars. So this is almost like a passive of sorts you can actually put on your character, and you can choose which one you're actually putting on. At the moment I only have 2, but I'm only in Act 1 and I've not maxed out relationships for any characters or anything like that, so how many collars you get I'm not quite sure, but the effects that I've seen on them so far can be pretty useful. I've got one, for example. What it does is it gives me the chance on each turn to either put resist on my character, so take no damage for 1 hit, or I can generate heroic energy at the start of the turn, so that's pretty nice. We then have a question from long-time follower of the channel, Leafy77. So first impressions of how deep the combat system is, not just tactical moving and playing cards, but also customization of decks and importance of team composition and synergies. There is an absolute ton, to the point that I feel that it's almost overwhelming at this point, but I imagine the more I play the game and I get used to the different characters and what they're able to offer, I'll feel a lot more confident in it. But yeah, there is an incredible amount of depth to the combat system. With a question here about the Steam Deck, so will the game work or be verified on Steam Deck? I don't actually know that. We weren't told it in the press pack we were given, unfortunately. If I find out, I'll look to add it to a pinned post at the top of this video. Finishing up here, we have how many cards does each hero have to choose from to add to the selected 8 for the mission. So as much as I've spent about 30 or 40 hours in game, I've not actually maxed out any of the cards for any character. I believe it takes a while to actually get them. From what I know, I think it's round about 10 cards. Doesn't sound a lot, but the fact you're upgrading your cards, you're adding mods to them, and you're bringing 3 heroes into each match, which means you have 30 cards within the pool, it's actually a fair amount there. But that's everything you really need to know prior to the game coming out. Once again, I'm having an absolute blast with it. If you've got any additional questions on anything I've not covered, leave them in the comments below. If I can answer them, I will look to do that. And if this video has been helpful, take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button, because there will be a lot more content coming from Midnight Suns.